The forest was silent, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of fear. The smaller creatures had gone into their holes. The winged animals stayed high in the trees, holding their breath. Even the wind moved carefully, brushing only lightly across the tall red leaves. Somewhere in the shadows, the predator pack was on the move. The pack was hungry. Hunger had been their companion for many days. They had chased weak prey before, but all had escaped or died too thin to be worth the effort. Their ribs showed beneath their dark hides, and their eyes glowed with the need to kill. Every step they took was filled with a promise of blood. The leader of the pack walked in front. His body was large and scarred, proof of many battles. His name was not spoken, but all the others followed his will. He stopped suddenly and raised his head. His nostrils flared. A scent drifted through the air, strange and sharp. His lips curled into a grin. "Prey!" His growl rumbled, low and certain. The pack froze behind him. Their tails flicked. Their jaws dripped with hunger. For a moment they listened. The forest seemed to tremble with the weight of their attention. Then the leader gave a low command, and the pack moved again, spreading out, silent as shadows. What they hunted was not like the animals of their world. The scent was strange, unlike fur, unlike scales, unlike feather. It was thin and dry, carrying hints of fire and metal. But prey was prey, and the pack was starving. Whatever creature left this scent would soon feed them. The human did not yet know they were coming. He was far ahead, moving slowly between thick trees. His clothes were torn and dirty. His skin was scratched, but his eyes were sharp, and his steps were careful. He had learned that this world did not forgive mistakes. He had no food left, no safe place to sleep. His body begged him to rest, but his mind stayed alert. Somewhere deep inside, he already felt the eyes on him. The predator pack crept closer. Their bodies blended with the forest floor. Their paws touched the ground without sound. One hunter climbed a tree, moving like liquid shadow through the branches. Another slid into a dry creek bed, its belly close to the dirt. They surrounded their prey with practiced ease. But the human was not as blind as they hoped. He paused beside a fallen tree, his hand brushing the rough bark. His head turned slightly, listening. The forest silence was too deep. No insects sang. No birds called. He felt the weight of the unseen. Slowly, his hand moved to the sharpened stick he carried, the only weapon he had made. The leader of the pack watched from above a ridge. His golden eyes narrowed with hunger. He had hunted many creatures. Some fought, most fled, but all were prey. This one was thin and tired. Its body was soft, with no armor, no claws, no teeth worth fearing. A weak creature. Easy meat. The pack would eat well tonight. Yet as the leader watched, he saw something strange. The human's shoulders were tense but steady. His eyes scanned the ground, the branches, the shadows. He was aware. Not like other prey. This creature knew it was hunted. Instead of panic, there was patience. Instead of fear, there was thought. Still, hunger burned stronger than caution. The leader gave a short growl. The signal passed through the pack, like lightning. Muscles tensed. Jaws opened. The hunt would begin with one quick strike. The human would not even have time to scream. But the human moved first. His hand brushed the dirt at his feet. He picked up a handful of stones and scattered them into the dark. The sudden sound of clattering rocks echoed through the trees. The pack stopped in surprise. For a moment, their positions were revealed as they shifted, and the human's eyes caught the movement. He knew now what stalked him. The leader growled again, deeper, angrier. His pack steadied. No more games. They would attack. The human's heartbeat quickened, but his mind sharpened. He had faced hunger before. He had faced storms, accidents, and loneliness. He had survived because he did not run without thinking. Now, with death close in the shadows, He would not run. He would plan. He would fight. The predator pack circled closer. Their teeth gleamed. Their breath steamed in the cool air. The forest held its silence, as if the trees themselves waited for blood. The leader crouched low. His claws dug into the dirt. His muscles bunched like coiled rope. Soon he would leap. Soon he would taste flesh. But the human did not look like prey. He stood tall, shoulders straight, eyes clear. The broken stick in his hand seemed small, but he held it like a weapon, not a tool. His jaw was set. His gaze met the shadows, unblinking. For the first time, a quiet doubt touched the edge of the leader's hunger. The hunt had begun. The forest did not breathe. Every sound had fallen away, and only silence wrapped around the trees. The predators waited, muscles tight, eyes fixed on the lone figure that stood in their hunting ground. But the human did not run. He stood still, one hand gripping the sharpened stick, the other resting against the fallen tree beside him. His chest rose and fell with slow control. His eyes did not blink often. He studied the shadows, the branches, and the ground as if each detail carried a secret. To the pack, this was strange. Prey was meant to panic. Prey was meant to bolt into the open, where teeth and claws could end it in heartbeats. But this prey was calm. The leader of the predators crouched low on the ridge, golden eyes narrowing. Hunger demanded the kill, but instinct whispered caution. Something about the way the human stood made the air feel heavier. Still, the pack had followed hunger too long to turn back now. The human bent slowly, his movements careful, never rushed. He picked up another stone from the ground and rolled it between his fingers. Then, without fear, he tossed it lightly toward the shadows. The stone bounced against bark and landed with a soft thud. The sound was small, but it told him what he needed. In the corner of his eye, he caught movement. The twitch of a tail, the flash of an ear. His suspicion grew firm. He was not only being watched, he was being surrounded. The calm that held him was not false. It was built from hard lessons. He remembered storms that had almost torn his shelter apart, nights when freezing winds bit into his skin, and days when thirst had nearly ended him. Panic had never saved him then. Panic only wasted energy. Calm thinking had always been his weapon. He shifted his weight and looked around. His eyes searched for higher ground. A thick branch stretched low above him, strong enough to hold his body. He made a note of it but did not climb. Climbing too soon would give away fear. He needed more than height. He needed control. Slowly, he walked along the fallen tree, placing each foot with care. He did not rush, did not stumble. His stillness and motion puzzled the predators. Some growled low, restless. Their leader silenced them with a glance. The hunt was still his to command. The human knelt by the roots of the fallen tree. The wood was rough but dry. He struck two stones together, testing them. Sparks flickered but died quickly. He smiled faintly. Fire was always possible. He tucked the stones into his pocket. He gathered a bundle of thin sticks and leaves, keeping his eyes on the forest edge, while his hands worked. His ears caught the faint shuffle of paws against dirt, the creak of weight on a branch. The pack was closing in, step by step, yet his breathing did not change. He had accepted long ago that fear never vanished. It only sharpened into focus. His heart beat faster now, but he used that rhythm to keep himself steady. Each thump reminded him he was alive, and alive meant he could still fight. The predators drew tighter around him, but he did not retreat. He placed the bundle of sticks beneath the tree and marked the ground with a line of stones. His eyes flicked upward to the ridge, where the leader crouched. For a moment, predator and human locked gazes across the space between them. Neither blinked. The human broke the stare first, not in weakness, but in choice. He had no need to prove anything to a beast. Instead, he pressed his sharpened stick into the dirt, testing its firmness. It was not strong enough to kill all of them, but strong enough to wound, to slow, to make the pack doubt. Sometimes survival was not about winning. It was about forcing hesitation. He lifted his eyes again. The silence deepened. He knew they were preparing to strike. His traps were not ready yet, but his mind was. He remembered lessons taught long ago, not by books, but by life itself. Hunger teaches patience. Cold teaches fire. Loneliness teaches the value of sound. Now predators would teach him how far he could bend before breaking. The leader shifted on the ridge, his growl rolling like thunder. The signal trembled through the pack. Muscles tensed. Paws pressed harder into the soil. The moment was close. But the human acted first again. He struck his stones together, once, twice, 3 times. This time, a spark caught the dry leaves. A small flame licked upward, hungry and bright. Smoke curled into the air, sharp and bitter. The fire was small, weak compared to the predator's bodies, but it was light, and light brought fear. The pack paused. They had seen fire before, but only from storms in the sky. Fire belonged to nature, not prey. Yet here was a creature, thin and soft, summoning flame with his hands. Some hunters stepped back, ears flat. The leader snarled, angry at their hesitation. Hunger burned hotter than fear. He leapt down from the ridge, landing heavy on the dirt. His body was a wall of muscle and scars, his teeth bared in promise of death. He roared once, and the sound shook the branches above. The human did not flinch. He stood straight, firelight casting long shadows across his face. His stick burned at one end now, held like a torch. His other hand gripped the sharpened spear. His calm was not for show. It was the quiet certainty that every choice he made carried weight. The leader stalked forward, claws raking the ground. The pack followed, though slower, less certain. The air thickened with tension. The human shifted his torch and spoke, though no one was there to understand his words. His voice was steady, quiet, almost gentle. "You think I am prey," he said, "but I am still alive. That means I have not lost." The predators could not hear the meaning, but they felt the sound. His calm voice did not match the fear of prey. It carried strength, a strange strength they had not tasted before. The fire cracked louder, sparks rising into the night. The human raised the torch higher, his eyes fixed on the leader. He stepped forward once, daring the beast to test him. The leader growled low. He had killed many creatures, but none had ever walked into his jaws with steady steps. Hunger pulled him forward, but doubt scratched at his mind. The forest held its breath. Firelight flickered. Smoke curled. The human waited, calm as stone. The hunt had changed. The flame burned small but steady in the human's hand. Smoke curled upward, thin and gray, carrying the sharp scent of charred leaves. The predators shifted uneasily at the sight of it. They had seen fire strike from the sky during storms, wild and untamed, but never had they seen prey create fire, hold it, and use it. For a heartbeat, the forest stood frozen. The human's eyes scanned the shadows. He knew they were closing in. He felt their hunger pressing against him, teeth waiting to snap. His calm did not mean he underestimated the danger. It meant he understood it. And because he understood, he prepared. He stepped back from the fallen tree, placing the burning torch on the ground where the dry leaves fed it. Flames grew taller, brighter. The light cut through the forest gloom, revealing the faint outlines of the hunters who circled him. Yellow eyes gleamed from the darkness, one pair after another. The pack hissed and growled, torn between instinct and command. Their leader was not afraid. Hunger and pride had no room for fear. He crouched low, muscles rippling, then gave the signal with a guttural roar. The attack began. 2 hunters sprang from the shadows, jaws wide, claws flashing. They were fast, so fast that most prey would never even see them coming. But the human had been waiting. His body tensed, then moved with sudden precision. The first predator lunged straight at him. At the last instant, The human thrust his sharpened spear forward. The point struck the beast's shoulder, not deep enough to kill, but sharp enough to pierce flesh. The predator howled, twisting away in shock. Blood sprayed dark across the ground. The second hunter came from the side. The human swung his torch and a wide arc fire brushed against fur. The predator recoiled, yelping, eyes wide with sudden pain and confusion. Fire was not supposed to bite. Fire was not supposed to burn on command. The pack faltered, taken aback. In only seconds, 2 of their own were injured. The human stood untouched, chest rising with steady breath. His eyes blazed with focus, not fear. But the leader was not done. With a roar, he charged down the slope, claws tearing up dirt. His body was a mass of muscle and fury, his jaws large enough to crush bone in one bite. He came straight at the human with unstoppable force. The human braced himself. His eyes flicked to the side, where he had scattered stones earlier. That ground was uneven. That was where he would make his stand. He moved fast, retreating toward the rough patch. The leader followed, rage blinding him to caution. As his paws hit the loose stones, his weight betrayed him. His body slipped for just a moment, balance broken. That moment was enough. The human struck with all his strength, driving the burning torch into the leader's face. Flame and smoke seared fur. The beast roared in agony, swinging its massive head wildly. The human jumped aside, narrowly avoiding claws that slashed the air where he had been. The leader stumbled back, shaking his head, smoke rising from singed fur. His growl was deeper now, not only with anger but with pain. The rest of the pack hesitated. Their strongest, their fiercest, had been touched by flame. Doubt crept into their eyes. The human did not celebrate. He knew hesitation would not last. Hunger was stronger than fear, and they would come again. He bent quickly, scooping up another stick from the bundle near the tree, pressing its end into the fire until it caught flame. Now he held 2 weapons, one torch and one sharpened spear. The predators spread out once more, circling tighter. Their growls echoed like thunder around him. The human's arms trembled from the weight of constant readiness, but his eyes stayed sharp. He knew the first clash was only the beginning. 2 more hunters crept forward, slower this time, testing him. They darted in and out, snapping jaws just short of his arms, trying to make him flinch. He did not. He turned with each feint, steady, controlled. His patience only fueled their frustration. At last, one struck too close. The human swung the torch upward, flames licking across the predator's muzzle. The creature shrieked and leapt back, smoke trailing from its singed whiskers. The other hunter saw its chance, rushing in from behind. The human spun, his spear thrusting backward. The point cut across the beast's side, shallow but enough to draw blood. The predator howled, staggering away. 3 injured now. The air filled with the coppery scent of blood, sharp against the smoke. The leader snarled, furious at his pack's weakness. He roared again, louder, commanding them forward. Hunger and shame drove them. They leapt as one, a storm of claws and teeth. The human's world shrank into moments. Torch swinging left, spear stabbing right, feet shifting quick across dirt and stone. He ducked low beneath a swipe that could have torn his chest open. He twisted aside from snapping jaws. Pain flared as claws grazed his arm, shallow but burning. Still he fought. Fire hissed. Wood cracked. The predators yelped and snapped, but none brought him down. The forest blazed with noise, roars, shrieks, and the crackle of fire. Sparks drifted upward, carried into the dark sky. Then, suddenly, the attack broke. The predators pulled back, panting, bleeding, eyes wide with something new. Not just anger, not just hunger, fear. The leader stood at the front, his chest heaving. Smoke curled from his singed fur, blood dripped from his face. He glared at the human with hatred, but behind it was the truth his instincts could not ignore. This prey was not prey. The human lowered his torch slightly, sweat pouring down his face. His arm ached. His breath came fast, but his eyes stayed locked on the leader. He knew better than to relax. One mistake, one moment of weakness, and they would finish him. For a long moment, predator and human stared across the space between them, firelight flickering across their faces. The pack shifted uneasily. They had expected an easy kill. Instead, they found pain, blood, and fire. Their bellies still ached with hunger, but their minds filled with doubt. The human's calm had carried him through the first storm. His traps were not yet laid. His body was already marked with scratches. But he still stood, steady, unbroken. The first contact was over, but the war for survival had only begun. The flames still burned at the human's feet, small but steady, lighting the dark forest with a trembling glow. Around the circle of firelight, the predator pack crouched low, their golden eyes glaring through the shadows. Their jaws dripped, their bodies tensed, yet none of them rushed forward again. The human stood with his torch raised, his chest heaving, sweat streaking his dirt-marked face. The scratches on his arm stung, blood seeping slowly down, but he ignored the pain. He focused only on the beasts that surrounded him. He knew their hunger had not ended. They would not give up, but they would not attack blindly again. They had learned, and that was dangerous, so he would make them unlearn. The human lowered his torch slightly, letting the flame crackle closer to the ground. He watched the shadows it cast, long and twisting. The predator's eyes followed the fire with uneasy hatred. "Good," he whispered under his breath, though no one could understand. "Look at the fire. Fear it. Watch it." He did not plan to fight them with strength alone. That path was death. Instead, he would fight them with thought. He picked up another stick, pressing it into the flame until it caught. Now he had 2 torches burning. He waved one in a wide arc, letting the firelight dance across the trees. Shadows stretched and shifted, making the forest seem alive with moving shapes. The predators flinched. Some growled low, uncertain. The human smiled faintly. Fear could spread faster than fire, but he did not stop there. He bent quickly, scooping handfuls of dirt. He tossed it into the flames, sending sparks bursting upward. The crackle echoed sharp in the still forest. The predators snarled at the sudden noise, claws digging into the soil. Noise, light, smoke. Every sense could be turned against them. The human stepped back slowly, into darker ground beyond the fire. He left one torch burning in the dirt, the other in his hand. From a distance, it would look as if he still stood where the first torch burned, his shape hidden behind the flames. But in truth, he was already moving. He crouched low, keeping the second torch close to the ground as he slipped behind the fallen tree. His breaths were careful, silent. He knew how to vanish when needed. His shadow melted into the night. The predators stared at the torch he left behind, mistaking it for him. One crept forward, jaws open, ready to strike. It lunged, straight into empty fire. Sparks leapt onto its fur, and it shrieked, rolling on the ground to put them out. The human watched from behind the tree, eyes sharp, patience steady. Each second bought him more ground. Each mistake from the pack was a seed of doubt planted deeper in their minds. The leader growled furiously, snapping at his own pack. His authority was slipping. He could not allow fear to spread, yet he himself felt the sting of smoke in his burned fur. He turned his eyes left and right, searching for the figure he had lost sight of. The human crouched lower, keeping to the shadows. He moved to another tree, sliding quietly like a shadow himself. He remembered how he had hunted small animals for food days before. Stay downwind, move slow, let the prey reveal itself. Now he was prey, but he would turn the lesson back on them. He found a pile of dry branches near the creek bed. Quickly, he stacked them, pressing his burning torch inside. Smoke rose at once, thicker, sharper. He fanned it with his hand, sending it rolling toward the predators. The beasts coughed and snarled, shaking their heads, confused by the sudden sting in their throats and eyes. Some staggered back. Others clawed at the dirt in frustration. The human did not smile. He only moved again, vanishing into another patch of dark. He left the second fire behind to spread its smoke. The predators began to argue among themselves with growls and snaps. Hunger demanded attack, but their senses betrayed them. Shadows moved where no prey stood. Smoke stung where no storm rolled. The leader tried to push them forward, but their eyes flicked nervously at every shifting light. The humans studied this carefully. They were losing rhythm. They were no longer one mind. And when predators lost unity, they lost power. Still, He knew their hunger was not finished. He needed more than tricks. He needed pain. He needed proof that every step toward him carried risk. He found a branch fallen from the ridge above, thick and heavy. He sharpened one end quickly with his knife stone, pressing it against rock until the wood narrowed to a point. He buried the sharpened tip into the dirt at an angle, hidden by brush. Then he moved again, circling the pack. The predators were restless, eyes darting, ears twitching. The leader barked a command, forcing two hunters forward. They leapt into the smoke, snarling, searching for their prey. The human waited. When one stepped near the hidden branch, he gave a sharp whistle. The sound cut through the night like a blade. The hunter jerked toward it and drove its chest straight onto the sharpened wood. A scream split the forest. The beast thrashed, impaled, before pulling free and stumbling back, bleeding badly. The pack howled in shock. Their leader snapped his jaws in rage, furious at being tricked again. But fear spread deeper now. Prey was not supposed to leave weapons in the earth. Prey was not supposed to plan. The human stepped from the shadows, torch raised once more. His face was smeared with ash and blood, but his eyes burned clear. He spoke again, voice calm, low, steady. You think I run. I do not run. You think I hide. I do not hide. I wait. I choose. The predators could not understand his words, but they understood his voice. It did not carry fear. It carried command. The leader snarled, but his growl lacked its old power. His pack was bleeding, burned, coughing from smoke. They wanted to eat, but they wanted to live more. Their eyes flicked to him for answers, but his silence gave them none. The human watched them, torch high. His calm was a weapon sharper than any spear. He did not look like prey. He looked like something else, something the predators had no word for. He looked like a hunter. The forest held still once more. Smoke drifted upward, sparks fading into the night sky. The mind game was not finished, but its first round was his. Smoke drifted across the forest, thick and heavy, carrying the smell of burned wood and blood. The predators shifted uneasily in the haze, their yellow eyes glowing dim through the mist. They were no longer silent shadows. They coughed, growled, and snapped at one another. Their hunger still burned, but now fear licked at their edges. The human stood with his torch high, his face streaked with ash, his arms scratched and bleeding. His breath was steady. His eyes never wavered. He had survived storms. He had survived hunger. Now he was surviving them. But he knew the pack was not finished. They would come again. And when they did, he had to be ready. He scanned the ground quickly, his mind racing. The smoke gave him cover, but it would not last forever. He needed a place where their speed and numbers meant less. Somewhere narrow. Somewhere he could turn their strength into weakness. His eyes found it. A dry gully, narrow and steep, just beyond the trees. The ground there dipped into a funnel of stone and dirt. If the pack rushed him inside, they would not be able to spread out. They would be trapped in their own charge. The human moved slowly, careful not to show weakness. He backed toward the gully, torch in one hand, spear in the other. Every step was measured. The predators followed, growls rumbling low, their eyes burning through the smoke. The leader padded forward, larger than the rest, his scars dark beneath singed fur. He glared at the human with fury. The tricks, the fire, the traps, these were insults. He wanted blood. His pack wanted meat. He would give the order soon. The human stepped into the gully. Rocks crunched beneath his boots. The walls rose close around him, just high enough to trap the pack if they entered. He turned to face them, his back against the deepest curve. He lifted his torch higher. The fire painted his shadow across the stone like a giant figure. Come, he whispered, voice low, calm. Come and see what waits for you. The leader roared, the sound rolling through the forest like thunder. Hunger and rage boiled over. He charged forward, and the pack surged after him, a flood of claws and teeth. The ground shook beneath their rush. Their roars filled the night. Dust rose as their bodies thundered into the gully. The human held his ground. His heart pounded in his chest, but his eyes stayed steady. He had chosen this place. He had chosen this moment. Now he would make it count. The first predator lunged. He swung the torch across its face, flames searing its eyes. It screamed and stumbled into the wall. The second leapt at his side. He thrust his spear, catching it in the chest. The point drove deep, and the beast howled in pain. More pressed in behind, trapped by the walls of the gully. Their bodies shoved together, their movements tangled. They snapped at one another as much as at him. The human struck again, torch swinging, spear stabbing. Each attack found flesh. Blood sprayed dark across the stone. The beast snarled and thrashed, their unity broken by the narrow space. The leader forced his way forward, crushing his own pack aside. His jaws snapped, teeth flashing inches from the human's throat. The human ducked low, driving the burning torch straight into the beast's chest. Flame licked fur. The smell of burned hair filled the air. The leader roared in agony, staggering back into his own hunters. Chaos spread. The human pressed forward, not back. He shouted, a sound fierce and sharp, not words but pure defiance. His voice cut through their roars. He swung his torch in wide arcs, sending sparks and fire into their eyes. He stabbed with his spear, each strike carving doubt deeper into their hunger. The predators faltered. Some tried to push forward, but the narrow ground trapped them. Their numbers worked against them. They tripped over one another, claws raking their own instead of their prey. Blood spilled not only from the human strikes, but from their own frenzy. For the first time, the pack broke. 2 hunters turned and fled the gully, scrambling up the walls in panic. Another limped back, chest bleeding from a spear wound. Their hunger had not ended, but their fear had grown stronger. The leader roared again, furious, demanding they hold their ground. But his pack wavered. Their eyes flicked to him, then back to the human, who stood tall in the firelight, his face grim, his arms steady. This was no prey. Prey did not hold fire. Prey did not bleed them. Prey did not stand against their rush and live. The human's chest heaved, sweat pouring down his face, his arms heavy from the fight. But his eyes blazed. He had endured the storm. He had bent their hunger into weakness. The turning point had come. The predators stepped back, one by one, growls low, their bodies tense with confusion. Hunger told them to attack again. Instinct told them to run. The leader's eyes locked on the human, fury burning in his golden gaze. Smoke still rose from his singed fur. Blood dripped from his chest where the torch had struck. He had never faced prey like this. He had never bled from prey before. His pride roared louder than his pain. He stepped forward, ignoring his pack's hesitation. He would not retreat. He would not allow defeat. The human raised his torch higher, firelight flickering across his face. His voice came low, steady, like stone. "You want me?" he said. "Then come. Alone." The words were meaningless to the predator, but the tone was clear. A challenge. A line drawn. The leader growled deep, claws scraping against rock. His pack stirred uneasy. They had followed him through many hunts, but never into this. Never against prey that fought like fire itself. The human stood unmoving, torch in one hand, spear in the other. His shadow loomed across the gully wall, larger than life. He looked not like prey, not like animal, but something else, something the predators could not understand yet feared all the same. The leader hesitated. For the first time, hesitation touched his heart. His pride screamed to strike. His instinct whispered caution. Behind him, his pack shifted, waiting. If he faltered, their unity would break. The human saw it, the doubt, the crack in his enemy's spirit. And he knew. The battle was no longer only claws and fire. It was will. Whoever bent first would lose. He lifted his spear and slammed the torch into the dirt beside him, sending sparks flying high. Flame roared upward, brighter, fiercer. The light blinded the gully, shadows twisting wild. The human's voice cut through it, sharp and strong. "I will not fall." The predators flinched at the sound, not the meaning. The leader growled once more, but his pack did not follow. Their hunger no longer bound them. Their fear now held them. The human's calm had carried him this far. His fire had carved their flesh. His will had cracked their unity. The tide had turned. The predator pack, once a storm of hunger, now stood broken in doubt. And the turning point belonged to him. The gully still smelled of blood and smoke. Broken stones lay scattered where claws had scraped. The human stood with his torch burning low, his spear heavy in his hand. His chest rose and fell in slow, steady breaths. He did not cheer. He did not smile. Victory here was only a step, not the end. Above the gully, the night stretched on. The moon hung pale behind a blanket of clouds. The forest whispered with uneasy silence. Somewhere out in the dark, the predators moved. Their growls had faded, but he knew they were there, watching, waiting, thinking. The human knelt and pressed his hand against the dirt. Warm blood still seeped into the soil. He had hurt them. He had broken their charge. But a wounded pack was not a defeated one. Hunger would bring them back. Pride would drive their leader forward again. He could not wait for them to decide. He had to move, to shape the fight before they did. The torch hissed as he pressed it into the ground, sparks rising into the night. He gathered broken branches and set them ablaze, building fresh light. Fire was his wall, his ally. Without it, he would be swallowed by the dark where their claws ruled. As the flames grew, his eyes scanned the land beyond the gully. The trees leaned close, their shadows shifting. Every shape looked like a hunter crouched low. His ears strained. A twig snapped. A low growl rolled across the silence. The pack was still near. He picked up stones and placed them in a line across the narrowest part of the gully. Behind the stones he laid sharpened sticks, angled upward, crude but deadly if stepped on in haste. His traps had worked before. They would again. When the work was done, he sat with his back to the wall. His arms trembled with exhaustion, but his eyes stayed open. He thought of water, of food, of rest, but pushed the thoughts aside. One mistake meant death. In the shadows beyond the firelight, golden eyes flickered. One, then two, then more. The pack had returned. They did not rush this time. They circled. Their growls rolled low, like thunder before a storm. They had learned from the gully. They would test him now, probe his strength, find his weakness. The human rose, spear in hand. His shadow stretched long and sharp against the stone wall behind him. He said nothing. His silence spoke for him. The leader appeared at the edge of the firelight, his body scarred and burned, his chest still raw where flame had touched him. His eyes burned with fury. He paced slowly, muscles coiled. He wanted blood, but he did not leap. Not yet. The pack spread wide, their bodies ghosting through the smoke. One darted forward, snapping at the edge of the fire. Another scraped claws along stone, a scream of sound that cut through the night. They were not attacking. They were breaking him down. The human understood. Hunger was not their only weapon. Fear was. If his hand shook, if his breath broke, if he showed weakness, they would strike. So he did not break. He stood still, his face cold, his eyes hard. Inside, his chest burned, his legs ached, his body cried for rest. But he gave them nothing. Minutes crawled like hours. The fire popped and hissed. The predators circled, yellow eyes glinting. The leader watched, waiting for his spirit to falter. But the human had lived storms that lasted days. He had walked deserts where thirst clawed at his throat. He had endured hunger, loneliness, cold. His survival was not built in a night. It was carved by years. And so he stood. At last, one predator snapped too close. Its paw struck the line of stones, and in a blink, its weight pressed down on the sharpened sticks. A scream tore the night as the trap pierced flesh. Blood sprayed. The beast thrashed, crying out in pain. The pack roared, shaken. The human stepped forward, torch raised high. He shouted, not words, but a sound deep and fierce. His fire swung wide, sparks flying. The pack pulled back, confusion breaking their rhythm. The injured beast limped away, leaving a trail of blood in the dirt. The leader roared in fury, snapping at his own hunters. His pride could not allow retreat, but his pack felt fear. They had bled too much already. The humans saw it, their doubt, their cracks. He pressed forward a step, his fire pushing against their shadows. His voice rang out again, sharp and strong. "This is my ground." They could not understand the words, but they felt the force. His will struck harder than his fire. The predators circled once more, but their hunger no longer looked endless. Their eyes shifted between him and their wounded packmate. They were torn between need and fear. The leader growled deep, pacing, his pride holding him where instinct told him to stop. His eyes locked on the human, golden fire burning. The human did not lower his torch. His body screamed for rest, but he stood unbroken. He had turned their hunger into hesitation. He had forced them to bleed for every step. The forest held its breath. The night stretched longer, darker, heavier. Then silence. The pack stopped circling. One by one, their eyes faded back into the trees. Their growls dimmed, swallowed by the forest. Only the leader stayed a moment longer, his chest heaving, his pride torn between rage and caution. He stared at the human through the smoke, his breath hot in the night air. Then, with a final snarl, he turned and vanished into the dark. The human stood alone in the gully, the fire crackling low, the air thick with ash. His arms trembled now, his body at its limit. But he had not fallen. He dropped to one knee, staring at the flames. He had not defeated them yet. The pack was still out there. Hunger would bring them again. But tonight he had endured. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "Survival over hunger." The words were not for the predators. They were for him. A reminder, a promise. He lifted his eyes to the dark forest. He knew the night was not over. The final clash would come. But for now, he had claimed something greater than victory. He had claimed their fear. And fear was stronger than hunger. The night dragged like a blade. Smoke had thinned, but the forest still smelled of ash and blood. The human sat by the dying fire, his spear across his knees, his body heavy with exhaustion. His eyes burned, but they stayed open. He knew the pack had not gone far. They were waiting. Somewhere beyond the trees, claws scraped against stone. A low growl echoed through the dark. The sound rolled like thunder, carrying fury and hunger together. The pack had retreated before, but hunger never ended. Fear slowed them, but pride pushed them forward. And their leader, scarred, burned, bleeding, would not allow this hunt to end in shame. The human's chest rose in steady breaths. His body trembled, but his will stood firm. He whispered into the silence, "Come, end it here." As if the forest had been listening, yellow eyes flared in the dark. One, then many. A circle closed around him once more. The pack had returned, and this time they would not wait. The leader stepped forward first, his chest scar scorched black, his eyes blazing with hatred. His growl shook the trees, sharp and commanding. The pack moved with him, their bodies low, their claws digging into the dirt. This was no test. This was the end. The human stood, spear in one hand, torch in the other, his back straightened, his shadow long against the gully wall. His body screamed for rest, but his mind silenced it. He had chosen this ground. He had chosen this fight, and he would finish it. The pack charged. The ground shook as they rushed, their roars crashing through the night. The human's heart hammered, but his arms moved steady. He swung the torch wide, sparks flying, light blinding their eyes. The first predator leapt. His spear met at midair, piercing deep. The beast shrieked and fell, body twisting. He tore the spear free as another lunged from the side. He swung the torch, fire scorching fur, forcing it back. The pack did not stop. They poured forward, snapping, clawing, their hunger wild. The human fought like storm and fire. Every movement was survival sharpened to a blade. His spear struck again and again, finding flesh. His torch swung in burning arcs, a wall of light in the chaos. Blood sprayed. Roars filled the gully. Dust rose as bodies clashed. But the human bled too. A claw tore across his arm, hot pain ripping through muscle. Another beast slammed into his side, knocking breath from his lungs. He staggered, vision spinning. He did not fall. He shoved the torch into its face, forcing it back with fire. His spear stabbed low, cutting its leg, dropping it to the ground. The leader pushed through the chaos, his roar louder than the rest. His eyes locked on the human, golden fury burning. He leapt, jaws wide, claws sharp. The human braced. He lifted the spear with both hands, aiming not to wound, but to end. The leader struck, weight crashing down. The spear drove upward, straight into his chest. The sound was like thunder and tearing wood. The beast screamed, a roar of rage and pain that shook the night. Blood poured down the shaft, hot and heavy. But even wounded, the leader fought. His claws raked, tearing across the human's shoulder. The pain was fire, but the human held firm, driving the spear deeper, deeper, until the beast's roar broke into silence. The leader's body collapsed heavy against him, blood soaking the ground. The pack froze. Their roars cut off. Their eyes widened, glowing in the firelight. Their leader, their pride, their strength, lay dead at the human's feet. The human shoved the body aside, standing tall though his arm bled, though his shoulder burned. His chest heaved, but his eyes stayed hard. He lifted the torch high, flame blazing bright against the dark. He shouted into the night, his voice fierce, unbroken. "Do you see? I will not fall." The sound tore through the forest, louder than their roars, sharper than their hunger. The pack hesitated. Their growls turned uncertain, their bodies shifting back. Without their leader, their unity cracked. Hunger pushed them forward, but fear now chained their steps. The human stepped toward them, blood dripping, torch blazing. His shadow stretched across the gully wall, a giant in the firelight. "Leave," he growled. His voice was low, but the strength inside it was unshaken. The predators flinched. One backed away, then another. Their eyes flicked to their fallen leader, then back to the human who stood unbroken above him. They turned. One by one, the hunters slipped into the dark, their bodies vanishing into the trees. No roar followed, no promise of return, only silence. The forest grew still. The night held its breath. The human stood alone once more, the torch burning low, the spear broken and bloody. His body shook, his wounds bled, but his will stood tall. He dropped to his knees, pressing his hand to the dirt. The earth was wet with blood, the air heavy with smoke. But he was alive. He had endured. Survival over hunger. He whispered the words again, soft but firm, a truth carved in blood and fire. Above him, the moon broke through the clouds, silver light, falling across the gully. It touched the dead leader's body, then the human's face. For a moment, the night seemed to bow to him. He looked into the dark forest, where golden eyes had once burned. They were gone now, scattered, broken. The hunt had ended, and he, the prey, had become the predator. The story would not stay in the forest. Whispers would travel. The tale of a human who stood against a predator pack, who fought with fire and will, who bent fear against hunger. This tale would grow, and other hunters, other races, would hear it. They would learn what the predators had learned tonight. Humans were not easy prey. Humans were survival itself.